Welcome to William C. Sterling State Park. Fun fact, Sterling State Park is the only Michigan state park that borders Lake Erie. It is located in the very southeastern portion of the state near Monroe, Michigan.
Sterling State Park is named for William C. Sterling. He was an area businessman who lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and he was a big proponent of protecting swamps and marshland and making sure that we had those for future generations and for the wildlife that needs those within the ecosystem. So here at Sterling State Park, you'll see a lot of that. There's a lot of lagoons and marshes. There are benches for you to sit and watch and listen for the birds. There's pavilions. They have spotting scopes out so you can try to catch some of the wildlife. And it's just kind of a neat testament to what he stood for what William Sterling stood for, and they've captured that in this state park.
It's really nice that the trail is right off the campground, so you can kind of just hop on your bike or go for a walk. There's approximately somewhere between 4 and 7 miles of paved trail. I say kind of approximately because there's a good section of it that is closed off right now due to erosion, and so they've got to fix that. But normally there's a number of different paths. The trails take you around a variety of different marshes and wetland areas where you're supposedly be able to see varying wildlife at different points of the year, birds, and even snakes if you're into that kind of thing. I'm kind of hoping to see one. The only downside to, I guess, this state park and the trail system and the campground is the fact that you have the DTE power generation plant directly behind you. So pretty much wherever you go, you're gonna see the plant. It's not loud, it's just there. So I guess you'd probably the worst part is you'd probably end up with it in some of your pictures. It's not super picturesque, but it's really not like a big deal or anything as far as noise is concerned.
Snakes of the marsh, unlike snakes on a plane.
I like snakes. People said people said online that they saw snakes. I want to see a snake.
So what kind do they have here?
Eastern fox snake, northern water snake, blue racer, northern ribbon snake, eastern smooth green snake, eastern garter snake, and apparently the eastern Masaga rattlesnake, which is poisonous.
When you're out on the trails here at Sterling State Park, it's definitely a place where you want to occasionally find a place to sit and just listen and watch and take a look at what you might find. There's all kinds of birds out here. In addition to seeing red-winged blackbirds and Canada geese, there's a snowy egret in one direction, there's a heron in another, there's all kinds of birds and wildlife. We ran across some folks who were doing some basically bow and arrow fishing or spear fishing for carp that they're going to use to make bait for catfish fishing. So a lot of activity here in the marsh or swampy area, and it's just a completely different ecosystem than a lot of us are used to seeing. Good place to bring binoculars.
Yeah, you definitely want to bring your binoculars. Oh, there goes the heron. Or egret. Definitely a good place for binoculars for sure. I actually realized there's a lot more out there than when I was just looking with my naked eyes.
Just a short distance from Sterling State Park is the River Raisin National Battlefield. It's a unit of the national park system, and there isn't a whole lot here. They're relatively new. I guess just a few years back it was actually a county park, and before that there was a factory on this site, and so that's, you know, completely different use of historic land. But what they're trying to do here is put together interpretive signs, and they're going to work on rebuilding what was known at the time as Frenchtown. And basically what the River Raisin Battlefield is it is the site of the largest land battle in Michigan for the War of 1812 between the British and the Americans. But it was a decent little bike ride to get here from the state park.
Yeah, it's really not too bad. The longest part of the bike ride was within the park itself, and then there's a short connector trail, maybe a mile, I'm not even sure if it was that long, that led us here to the National Battlefield. And it's always nice to check off a national park on our list. Sometimes we'd like to hit all of them, but we've always said we were going to come to this one because it's really not that far from our house, maybe a couple hours, but we just had never made it. One of the cool things about the trail is that it does continue into the town of Monroe, and where they have a more of a historical trail, some other monuments, and a little park and a veterans memorial.
Yeah, one of the things that seems really nice about this area is this paved trail system. There's, through and around the state park, you can get here to the National Battlefield. It leads you right into the city. And then I believe one of the rangers told us that it actually continues to another set of trails. Depending on how far you want to go, you could ride your bike quite a ways around here. And it all seems to be connected pretty well. It actually, at one point, we're actually across I-75 from where the state park is, but there is a tunnel that you're on the trail and you just ride right under the freeway and end up in Monroe here. So they've set it up pretty well. Right across the road from the National Battlefield Park is the River Raisin, and in January of 1813, during that battle when the U.S. infantry and the Kentucky militia lost, they ended up retreating across the frozen river to try to get to safer land.
It's a really good use of connecting state, federal, and local county land. So you've got the state park, you've got the National Battlefield, and then you have some just local township, county parks and trail systems. So I think it's a good way to spend a day, to spend a weekend, however long you want to be here. There's a lot of opportunities to get out and see things.
So we're riding along on the bike path and you decided it was time to whip up the binoculars again.
There's a cute little beaver. And he's got claws and big sharp nasty teeth. But he's so cute.
There's actually a lot of beavers in this pond right here. You look at the number of beaver dens and you just sit here for a minute and look around and you'll see them swimming around and climbing in and out. It's kind of cool. Sterling State Park has a pretty nice campground. It's got 256 sites in it, 75 of which are full hookups, so water and sewer right on the site, and a number of them seem to have the 50 amp service now too, so that's important to know. And that's really unusual for a state park. Most of them really only ever have electric and sometimes water, so really to have sewer and water is quite unique for one of Michigan state parks. And you do pay more for it. I think our site, which was electric only, was $28, and you said $40.
$40 for full hookup.
So you pay for it, but if you want that convenience, it's there for you. It's kind of a big open field with all the sites being paved, but it's not too bad overall.
No, it's definitely, originally it would have been my ideal state park. It's definitely, like you said, more of an open field. There's no trees whatsoever, no privacy between the sites. But the sites are actually huge, considering and compared to some of the other ones we've seen. So you have a lot of space between you and your neighbor. You don't feel, you're not stacked on top of each other. You don't feel like you're crowding on each other. You have a campfire, they have a campfire. There's some space in between. So overall, I think this is actually a really nice campground for what it is.
And I thought it was interesting too, there's quite a few that are pull-through sites. And I wonder if they end up with bigger rigs. A lot of people here with boats because it is on Lake Erie. It's a very busy and very nice boat ramp for you to launch your boat. And I think maybe that plays a role in that they've got more pull-through sites here. But the other thing I would mention is you mentioned there were no trees. There are some small scrub trees that are trying to grow. But the reason I mention that is there is zero shade on any of the sites. So depending on what you're looking for, if you want to keep your solar topped off, this is the place to be. But if you're looking for shade, you're not going to find it here. But yeah, nice quiet park overall, really.
Meow. They glow in the dark. At least that's what the tag said.
Anyway, now what this video is about. This part of the video is about what they offer at Sterling State Park for day use, because there is the campground here. But there's a good-sized day use area. You had noticed a couple of things like the playground and...
Yeah, huge playground, really nice playscape, I guess. One of those, I don't know, rubberized plastic things, newfangled contraptions. But it was packed tonight when we walked by. I was really impressed actually by the number of kids hanging out on it.
Yep. There's bathroom facilities here by the beach. So if you're here for the day, there seems to be quite a few grills, a large number of picnic tables.
At least 2 pavilions that we see that you could apparently rent for parties, reunions kind of thing.
We have noticed in the campground and here in the day use area, there's some pretty good terrain changes, and you have some low spots where it's pretty flooded in a couple of places right now. Now, this county, or in this area, is under a flood warning.
Currently, yeah.
Currently, because of some rain and weather that they've had. So maybe it's not always that way. it is something to think about. If you're here when there's going to be a lot of rain, there might be some puddles to deal with.
Well, we even noticed that in the campground, there are a few sites, even though they are paved and pretty level sites, that one Class A was definitely sitting in water. So you do have to be careful a little bit. If you're tenting, it's going to be a little bit soggy at certain times of the year.
Maybe that's just a bonus that the state is offering. You can wash your wheels while you're camping.
Everybody gets a water site. But no, I mean, this is a gorgeous park. Actually, for having never been here, I didn't know what to expect, and I really think this is cool. There's a lot of different things going on here and a lot to offer. So we're walking down the beach, and we realized that a lot of these trees are right up next to the water, which is kind of odd. You don't usually see that on the beach, and these are big trees. And then we got up closer and realized the root system is super exposed from the erosion of the waves and the sand and the wind. And so you actually get to see the root structure of the tree and how it's like branched out into the water. So all of the roots are out into Lake Erie, which is really cool, but it's this big spider web of roots and everything. And it makes you really realize like what's below the ground that you just don't see on a normal basis, because usually there's like grass and stuff covering it. So it's just really cool to kind of see this.
Right alongside the campground, there is a beach that runs for about a mile along Lake Erie. I think sometimes sort of one of the forgotten Great Lakes. But it's also been the one with some of the most trouble over the years because of pollution that came out of the Detroit River, pollution that's come out of Cleveland. It's not always been the cleanest lake. And even you said it's nice to be on a beach, but it's not very inviting.
No, the beach itself is pretty nice. It's wide and sandy. There's a lot of space. I mean, it would be definitely nice to set up a lawn chair, lawn chair, beach towel, and watch the boats go by out in the water. But just off the beach into the water is just a debris field. I mean, a lot of just sticks and junk and stuff. So I'm not sure going into the water would be the best idea. And maybe that's different times of the year depending on how the tide's kind of coming in. But the beach itself is pretty decent and the view is gorgeous.
Hey, look, you're on a beach. The sun is shining. There's no snow. The sand isn't all wet if it's not near the water.
Looks pretty good. Except for the fact that even though they said Lake Erie is the warmest of the Great Lakes, yeah, it's still pretty chilly, so I think we're striking out on going swimming today. So I guess it's got that going for it.
Yeah, it's always nice to see a Great Lake. It's interesting here, because we're down in the Monroe area, the Fermi 2 nuclear power plant is right across the bay here. So
yeah, that's not super scenic.
That's not super scenic. There's the DTE power plant on one side,
nuclear power plant on the other. But if you look straight out, it's gorgeous that way.
Yeah, just, ignore the power plants on either side and look straight out across the lake. And it's still kind of nice out here. So yeah, it's just kind of nice having, and we have a campsite this time that is right on the beach, basically.
Yeah.
And so there are a number of them.
Fine.
A number of the campsites are along the outer loop, and they allow you to basically, walk out the back of your campsite and you're down on the beach. So that's kind of cool too.
Hey, look at the awesome power plant behind me. Super scenic, awesome view. Actually though, I did want to mention that there's apparently nothing wrong with it other than it's not super scenic. You don't smell it, you don't hear it, you don't nothing. There's nothing wrong with a power plant. It's just sort of there, but it's not going to impact your stay at the campground at all. So I just want to make that pretty clear. The other thing that we did notice on the way in that's I thought was pretty impressive was that the boat launch area was packed, and I mean packed when we pulled in this morning. We're right on Lake Erie, and as we can see out in the water, there's been a ton of boats out there all day, and they're obviously, many of them are launching from down here. There's a lot of people in the campground that have boats or boats trailers on their site with them. So this is definitely a popular area for people that want to go boating and probably fishing.
So overall, great park. This is a place I would come back to again. We are almost in Ohio, so it's about as far south as you can get in Michigan. But if you live in Michigan, come on down here. It's worth the trip.
And if you're from Ohio, you can come on up as well. Toledo's not that far away, and this is a great weekend getaway.
Yeah, come on down, check out Monroe. Come on up and check out Monroe. See the area, see Sterling State Park. Whatever you do, keep on trekking.
And we'll see you on the road. Fun fact, this is the only state park that borders Lake Michigan, and it is located down by Monroe, Michigan, in Michigan's lower...
Do it again and say Lake Erie.
What did I say?
Lake Michigan. It's the only Michigan state park on Lake Erie. Take 3.